They won't slap you or scream. They won't drag your name through the mud, at least not where anyone can see it. But they will sigh just a beat too loud when you talk, cut you off with a joke just as you're making a serious point, forget to include you, delay replying, dismiss your input with a smile that says, "You don't matter." These aren't accidents. They're calculated fractures in your dignity, subtle, sharp, deniable, and most people just swallow them. They make excuses, saying, "It wasn't that bad, right?" But the truth, this is exactly how respect erodes. Not with grand drama or explosive fights, but with 1,000 invisible paper cuts. Once people realize they can get away with these little acts, they start pushing further. What begins as a casual eye roll becomes you turning into the punchline, the afterthought, the subordinate. Power games don't begin with war, they start with tone, looks, silences. If you tolerate these 4 subtle acts of disrespect, you're signaling something deadly, that you can be ignored without consequence. The first one, it's the fastest weapon and the loudest denial, the performative misunderstanding. You say something clear, precise, calm, and the other person acts like they don't get it, not because they're genuinely confused, but because it puts you on the spot. You have to repeat yourself, over-explain, clarify until you sound flustered or needy for their understanding. In Machiavelli's playbook, this move is lethal. It flips the power dynamic so that they appear innocent and passive, confused while you're the one jumping through hoops for their attention. If you let this slide, you're not being polite, you're being positioned. Machiavelli would say, never explain more than once. If someone acts like they don't understand after your first explanation, don't repeat yourself. Reinforce your position calmly and firmly. You might say, "I think I was clear." If not, maybe this conversation isn't as important to you as it is to me. Say it once, short, unapologetic. You're asserting that not listening is their issue, not your communication. Because if you regularly let someone pretend to misunderstand, they're basically training you to believe your words don't matter. The second act of disrespect hides behind humor, the playful undermining. You share an idea or set a boundary, and suddenly there's a smirk or a chuckle. Relax, I was just joking. It's an insult wrapped in a joke, a public dig dressed up as wit, a jab in front of people that turns your strength into a spectacle. Here's the tricky part. If you take it seriously, you look uptight. If you ignore it, it keeps happening. Mirror it, and you get labeled aggressive. But Machiavelli didn't play fair, and neither should you. Every joke is a calculated move to weaken you. If you laugh along or stay silent, you're not keeping the peace, you're helping erode your image. The right move. Call their bluff with calm and a hint of menace. Lean in just a little. Keep your expression neutral. And say something like, "Funny how people hide behind jokes when they really want to say something serious." Say it loud enough for others to hear, not angry. Just undeniable. It cuts through the humor mask and shows everyone you see the game and you're not losing. The third act is the slow killer of respect. So quiet most people don't notice it until it's too late. The strategic delay. Someone takes forever to text you back but answers others immediately. They cancel plans last minute, keep showing up late, or go silent until suddenly they need something. This isn't forgetfulness or being busy, it's exploiting your tolerance. Each time you accept a delay without resetting boundaries, you teach them they can always get you on their schedule, even when they're not respecting yours. Machiavelli knew time was one of the most powerful currencies in politics. He'd ask, who waits for whom? Who adjusts? Who gives? And who takes time? This dynamic is never neutral. If they make you wait, they're telling you where you stand. So here's the rule you should live by. Mirror the importance they assign, but with style. Don't beg for attention. Don't initiate contact. Don't fill silences. Don't bend your schedule to theirs anymore. Let the silence grow so loud they have no choice but to hear your absence. If they value you, they'll notice. If they don't, you've saved yourself wasting time on someone slowly eroding your value. And the fourth act, the hardest to spot and the most corrosive to your authorities, the supportive sabotage. It's that friend who celebrates your goals but warns you not to dream too big. The colleague who compliments your idea but then tells others it might need more work. The partner who encourages you to speak up, then whispers afterward that you sounded a little intense. It's not hate, it's slow sabotage wrapped in praise, the perfect disguise for envy. Machiavelli understood false allies are dangerous. They smile to your face but plant seeds of self-doubt behind your back. If they make you question yourself, They never have to confront you directly. You shrink yourself all on your own. To fight this, Machiavelli would test boundaries strategically. He'd exaggerate his plans by 20%, see how people reacted, then decide who was trying to hold him back under the mask of fake concern. Once exposed, the solution was simple. Cut their influence, not always through confrontation but by compartmentalization. You don't have to end the relationship. Just withhold the parts of yourself they'll use against you. Every time you tolerate this quiet sabotage, you're letting others rewrite your worth. For a Mac, controlling your narrative means controlling power. Never let whispers go unchallenged. Never let jokes slide. Never reward delays. And never let soft sabotage near your purpose. Authority doesn't come from loud declarations. It's built in the silent moments when others test how far they can go and learn it's not far enough. When you let someone cross the line just a little without pushing back, you teach them your boundaries are made of suggestion, not steel. Machiavelli would call that a fatal weakness, because real power isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling the terms on which people interact with you. If you let small slights go, you've lost the fight before it starts. Most people think reclaiming authority means confrontation and drama. Machiavelli wouldn't say that. He'd focus on precision. Every response should have two goals. Set a consequence and keep control of your emotional presentation. Say someone always interrupts when you're speaking in a group, not blatantly. Just enough to steal attention every time you gather momentum. Most people either stay quiet, laugh it off, or talk louder. All of these hand over control. Machiavelli would flip the frame. Mid-interruption, he'd pause, look the interrupter in the eye, not angry, just calmly disapproving, and say something like, "Interesting how you always jump in right as I'm about to make a point. Almost makes me wonder if you're afraid of what I'm going to say." No yelling, no drama, just a sharp, elegant mirror held up for everyone to see. Now everyone is watching the intro, and you've turned the power dynamic without raising your voice. That's tactical authority, a psychological game of positioning. Once you show you notice subtle disrespect and can't expose it publicly but tastefully, people start recalibrating around you. But what if the disrespect is silence? Someone who withholds acknowledgement, goes silent when you succeed, doesn't comment, doesn't support, not even a nod. This kind of absence is strategic. It's a message. Your success doesn't threaten me, because I pretend it doesn't exist. This is one of the most manipulative moves in human dynamics. Controlling your self-perception by starving your recognition. Machiavelli would see this as a morale war. What do? You don't chase validation. You elevate visibility. Don't complain about the silence. Make sure others see your worth. Use subtle self-talk about your achievements, not bragging. Just sharing context. Say things like, "That project I wrapped up last week, the one that hit those numbers, it taught me a lot about handling pressure." You aren't asking for applause. You're setting the facts straight and taking back narrative control before their silence can rewrite your story. And that brings us to the most insidious tactic of all, collective undermining. This happens when a group, maybe even unconsciously, starts echoing the same subtle dismissals of you. They laugh a little too hard when you slip up, glance at each other when you speak, share inside jokes you're clearly not part of. At first, it feels like you're imagining things, but that's the whole point. Collective disrespect is designed to make you question your own perceptions. This is where most people either break down or break apart, becoming defensive and erratic. But Machiavelli wouldn't react emotionally, because the moment you do, they win. Instead, he'd create a moment that reclaims the power. Imagine this: a group of co-workers subtly mocking an idea you pitched. You feel the tension, the stifled laughter, the dismissive tones. Rather than reacting in the moment, you walk into the next meeting with undeniable leverage. You say something like, "Since the last idea I suggested didn't quite resonate, I took the liberty of running a few variations by someone outside our circle. Turns out 2 of them are already being implemented by competitors." That's not just a clapback, that's dominance. You've asserted your original idea had merit, quietly called out the clique mentality, and reclaimed authority by showing your value goes beyond their circle. It's not about winning the moment, it's about shifting the center of gravity back to you. And this is the Machiavellian approach. You don't punish disrespect. You make people wish they had respected you from the start. Every interaction, every response, every move is part of a larger positioning game. People are always watching and testing, consciously or not, asking themselves, How far can I go with this person before they push back? Your goal isn't to be feared or adored, to be untouchable without ever raising your voice. So, when someone makes a joke at your expense, let it die in silence. Meet their gaze without blinking. When someone delays your time, remove their access instead of sending reminders. When someone undermines you in whispers, speak louder, not in volume, but in results, clarity, and presence. And when subtle disrespect becomes a pattern, Machiavelli's final rule kicks in. It's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. But the most powerful state of all is being respected without needing to explain why. The danger of subtle disrespect is that it never knocks on the front door. It seeps in through the cracks. It doesn't announce itself. It accumulates, like dust on glass, slowly dimming how others see you and, more dangerously, how you see yourself. That's why Machiavelli didn't just study obvious enemies. He studied patterns, repeated behaviors, small breaches, because in politics and life, what you tolerate teaches people what you'll allow next. Now, let's talk about a social microgesture Machiavelli would consider a red flag: selective visibility. You notice it when someone always sees and praises others publicly, enthusiastically, but when you speak, they look at their phone. When you enter a room, they nod but don't really engage. When you post something important, they don't respond, yet they're supporting everyone else. This isn't accidental. It's a form of social minimization engineered to shrink you without saying a word. It's the psychological equivalent of turning down the volume only when your song comes on. What makes this especially insidious is how easy it is to justify. Maybe they're busy, you tell yourself. Maybe you're overthinking, but Machiavelli would say no. He'd say they know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to make you feel small, deliberately. In a world of status games, selective attention is currency. When someone withholds it from you regularly, they're marking you as low value in the eyes of others. So, how do you counter this? Not by begging for visibility, not by mirroring pettiness or resentment. You raise your own visibility until their silence becomes obvious. You build third-party authority. Get others talking about your work, your impact, your presence, not by bragging, but by delivering undeniable results. Maybe it's a post that resonates, a strong moment in a meeting, a meaningful comment in a conversation. Highlight it, build on it, and let that success create gravity. Because when your value becomes public and undeniable, their silence doesn't make you look small. It makes them look envious. And envy, as Machiavelli warned, is the most self-destructive emotion when it's exposed. Now, perhaps the most complicated form of subtle disrespect is false elevation. This is when someone praises you for traits you no longer want to be known for. They call you the nice one, the easygoing one, or the one who never causes drama. It sounds like a compliment, but it isn't. It's a leash, disguised as admiration. What they're really saying is, stay in your role, be agreeable, stay quiet, don't disrupt, don't demand more. And the moment you step out of that mold by being assertive, confident, or commanding, they punish you. Not openly, but by withdrawing that fake praise. Suddenly, you're changing or getting difficult, not being true to who you were. Machiavelli would never let someone else define the boundaries of his character. He'd say, don't let praise put you in a cage. If someone only likes you when you're small, that's not respect, that's control. So, here's the move. Change the script without asking for permission. When someone says, you're always so easygoing, reply, not always. I've learned when silence costs more than tension. With that one line, you kill the old version of yourself they were trying to pin down and replace it with someone harder to manipulate. From there, your tone changes, your posture shifts. You stop speaking to be liked and start speaking to be heard, because respect doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being inevitable. And this brings us to one final Machiavellian principle that applies to every form of subtle disrespect. He who builds his authority on sand must always defend it, but he who builds it on silence and consequence never needs to. You don't gain dominance by reacting to every slight. You gain it by letting people feel the absence of your approval, your access, your energy the moment they try to take it for granted. So when someone disrespects you, whether with a fake smile, a late reply, or a backhanded compliment, don't try to decode it, mark it, or remember it to use later. Don't adjust with anger or confrontation. Instead, handle it with cold precision. Reduce their access, remove their influence, recalibrate the terms of engagement, because the people who truly respect you will never need reminders of your worth. but the ones who test it. They deserve to learn that what they mistook for kindness was control all along. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the person who says less, but makes others watch more closely. It's the one who doesn't chase respect, but makes others adjust when they're around them. That's what Machiavelli understood better than anyone. Authority isn't granted, it's enforced silently, and enforcing it isn't about punishing the obvious betrayals. It's about responding to the small moments others think you're too polite to notice. Because here's the final truth. Disrespect never begins at full volume. It's a test. It starts with a delay, a look, a joke, a small public dismissal, and depending on how you respond, it either dies or grows into something far more corrosive. You aren't just reacting to the moment, you're setting the precedent for every moment after. Machiavelli would say, a ruler must cultivate fear not through violence, but through consequence. He must be loved if possible, feared if necessary, but above all, he must be unassailable. So, how do you become unassailable? You become the kind of person who makes others question themselves before they cross the line. Let's say someone tries to tease you in front of others, testing the waters to see your reaction. You don't glare, you don't argue, you smile without warmth. You look them in the eye and say something calm, still, and sharp, because people always reveal more than they mean to when they're trying to be funny. You just turn their weapon into their own confession. Everyone hears it, everyone sees it, and the message is clear. You don't play status games, you end them. You don't have to raise your voice to take control. The power lies in that silent, sharp moment, the one where you show you're untouchable. When someone tries to throw shade, delay, be sarcastic, or sabotage, your response should be quiet, exact, and devastating. Not to punish, but to send a clear message to everyone in the room about what happens when someone forgets who they're dealing with. Most people think taking back authority means confrontation, drama, or cutting people off. Machiavelli knew better. He believed in precision, not recklessness. Every reaction should serve two purposes: establish the consequence, and maintain control over your own emotional presentation. Picture this. Someone constantly interrupts you in group conversations, not overtly, but just enough to steal the spotlight right when you're about to make your point. Most people freeze, laugh it off, or try to speak louder, but all three hand over the frame of the conversation. Machiavelli would shift the frame. Mid-interruption, he'd pause, look the interrupter in the eye not with anger, but with calm disapproval, and say something like, "Interesting how you always jump in right as I'm about to land a point. Almost makes me think you're afraid of what I might say." No yelling, no accusing, just a sharp, elegant mirror held up for everyone to see. And suddenly, all eyes are on the interrupter, not you. You've flipped the power dynamic without raising your voice. This is tactical authority, psychological positioning on a master level. Once people realize you notice the subtle slights and can expose them publicly but tastefully, they start recalibrating around you. But what if the disrespect isn't action, but withholding? Say someone constantly withholds acknowledgement, no comment, no support, not even a nod when you do something exceptional. This absence is strategic. It sends a message. Your success doesn't threaten me because I'm pretending it doesn't exist. This is manipulative, because it controls your self-perception by starving you of recognition. Machiavelli would see this as a morale war. So what do? You don't chase validation, you elevate visibility. Don't dwell on their silence. Instead, make sure others see your value. Use subtle self-amplification. Talk about your achievements, not boasting, but weaving them naturally into conversations. Say something like, "That project I finished last week, the one that hit those numbers really taught me about handling pressure." You're not asking for applause. You're stating facts. More importantly, you're reclaiming the narrative before their silence can rewrite your story. And that brings us back to the most damaging tactic of all: collective undermining. It's when multiple people, consciously or not, echo the same dismissals. They laugh a little too hard when you mess up. They exchange knowing looks. They share private jokes. You're clearly outside of dot. It feels like you're imagining it, but you aren't. This is the genius of collective disrespect, designed to make you doubt your own senses. This is the moment most people break down or lash out defensively. But Machiavelli would hold frame never emotional, because the moment you react, they win. Instead, he would create a moment that reclaims his power. Let's say the group subtly mocks an idea you pitched. Feel the tension, the stifled laughter, the dismissive tones. Don't engage immediately. Walk into the next meeting with undeniable leverage. Say something like this: since the last idea I suggested didn't resonate here, I took it to some outside perspectives. Turns out, 2 variations of it are already in use by competitors. That's not just a comeback, it's dominance. You quietly prove your original idea had merit. Call out the group mentality and reclaim your authority. It's not about winning that moment, it's about shifting the center of gravity back to you. And that's the Machiavellian approach. Never punish disrespect overtly. Instead, make people wish they'd respected you from the beginning. Every interaction, every response, is part of a positioning strategy. People are always watching, testing, unconsciously asking, how far can we go before this person pushes back? Your job isn't to be feared or adored. It's to become untouchable without raising your voice. When someone sneers or jokes at your expense, let it die in silence. Look them in the eye without flinching. When someone wastes your time, remove their access instead of sending reminders. When others try to undermine you quietly, respond louder, not in volume, but in clarity, results, and presence. And when subtle disrespect forms a pattern, Machiavelli's ultimate rule comes into play: better to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both, but even more powerful is to be respected without having to explain why. Because once people realize you won't tolerate the small stuff, they'll never dare test you on the big things. The danger of subtle disrespect is that it creeps in silently. It seeps through tiny cracks. No announcements. It accumulates like dust on glass, slowly dulling how others see you and how you see yourself. That's why Machiavelli didn't just study obvious enemies. He studied patterns, repeated motions, small breaches, because what you allow teaches everyone what's next. Now, a social microgesture. Machiavelli would flag selective visibility. You noticed it when someone enthusiastically cheers for others in public, but when you speak, they glance at their phone. When you walk in, they nod absent-mindedly but don't engage. When you post something important, they never respond but they boost everyone else. This isn't an accident. It's engineered social minimization. They want you to know they see you, but you're not worthy of attention. It's like turning down the volume only when your song comes on. And what makes this toxic is how easy it is to explain away. Maybe they're busy, you tell yourself. Maybe you're overthinking it. But Machiavelli would say, no, they know exactly what they're doing, shrinking you without a word. In a world of status games, selective attention is currency. When they withhold it from you, especially in a pattern, they mark you as low value in the eyes of others. So how to fight that? Not by begging for visibility, not by stooping to petty tactics. You raise your visibility. Until their silence can't hide, start building third-party authority. Get others talking about your work, impact, and presence. Not through bragging, through undeniable results. One post goes viral. One moment in a meeting stands out. One comment changes the conversation. Highlight it. Build on it. Let your success attract attention, because when your value becomes public fact, their silence doesn't make you small, it makes them look jealous. And envy, as Machiavelli warned, is the most self-destructive emotion when exposed. You don't need to yell or make a scene to control the room. The true power lies in the silent, precise moments where you show you're untouchable. When someone throws shade, delays, mocks sarcastically, or tries to undermine you, your response should be calm, exact, and impactful. This isn't about teaching them a lesson, it's about sending a clear message to everyone watching about what happens when someone forgets who they're dealing with. Most people misunderstand reclaiming authority as drama or confrontation, but Machiavelli knew the secret: precision and calm control. Every answer should accomplish 2 things: establish clear consequences and keep your emotional control intact. Imagine someone frequently interrupts during group talks, not aggressively, just enough to steal the spotlight when you're building momentum. Most people freeze, laugh it off, or raise their voice, all of which hand over control of the conversation. Machiavelli would flip the script. Mid-interruption, he'd pause, look the interrupter right in the eye, not angrily, but with calm disapproval, and say, "Interesting how you always jump in just as I'm about to make my point. Almost makes me wonder if you're afraid of what I'm going to say." No yelling, no accusations, just a crisp, elegant mirror that everyone can see. Suddenly, the interrupter is on the spot, not you. You just flipped the power dynamic without ever raising your voice. This is tactical authority, masterful psychological positioning. When people realize you catch even the smallest signs of disrespect and can call them out tastefully in public, they begin to recalibrate how they treat you. But what if the disrespect isn't something you're doing, but something they withhold? Imagine someone constantly refusing to acknowledge your achievements, never commenting, never supporting, not even a small nod when you do something remarkable. That silence is a message. Your success doesn't threaten me because I act like it doesn't even exist. This is one of the most manipulative moves out there, controlling your self-worth by starving you of recognition. Machiavelli would call this a battle for morale. So, what do? You don't chase validation, you amplify your visibility. Forget chasing their approval. Instead, ensure others see your impact and worth. Use subtle self-promotion, not bragging, but naturally weaving your achievements into conversations. Say things like, "The project I wrapped last week, the one that hit those big numbers, taught me a lot about dealing with pressure." You're not fishing for applause. You're just stating facts. More importantly, you're reclaiming your narrative before their silence can rewrite your story. Now, let's circle back to the most toxic form of this subtle disrespect: collective undermining. This happens when multiple people, maybe without intending to, start echoing the same dismissive behaviors. They laugh a little too hard when you stumble, exchange knowing looks when you speak, and share inside jokes you aren't part of. At first, it feels like you're losing your mind, but you're not. This collective disregard is designed to make you doubt your own reality. This is the moment most people falter. They either collapse under the pressure or respond erratically. Wouldn't fall into that trap. He'd keep his composure, because the moment you get emotional, they win. Instead, he'd create a power play. Say you sense your co-workers mocking your idea quietly. You feel the tension, the suppressed snickers and dismissive tones. You don't react immediately. Instead, you show up at the next meeting with undeniable leverage. You say, "Since the last idea I suggested didn't get much traction here, I ran a few versions of it by some people outside our group. Turns out, 2 of them are already being used by our competitors." That's not just a comeback, that's dominance. You prove your original idea had real merit, subtly call out the clique mentality, and reclaim your authority. Instead of trying to win the moment, you shift the center of attention, gravitational pull back to you. That's the Machiavellian way. You don't outright punish disrespect. You make people regret not showing you respect from the start. Every interaction, every response, every move is part of a positioning strategy. People are always watching and testing, consciously or not, asking themselves, how far can we push before this person pushes back? Your job isn't to be feared or adored, it's to be untouchable, without ever raising your voice. So, next time someone laughs at a joke made at your expense, let it die silently. Meet their eyes and don't blink. When someone wastes your time, remove their access instead of sending follow-ups. When someone whispers to undermine, speak louder, not with volume, but with your results, clarity, and presence. And when these subtle slights become routine, remember Machiavelli's ultimate rule. It's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. Yet the most powerful state is to be respected without an explanation, because once people realize you won't tolerate small disrespect, they won't dare challenge you on the bigger stuff. Subtle disrespect never barges in. It seeps quietly through cracks, accumulating like dust on a window, slowly blurring how others see you and, more dangerously, how you see yourself. That's why Machiavelli studied not just obvious enemies, but small repeated behaviors, breaches, and patterns. You don't have to raise your voice or cause a scene to command respect. The real strength lies in those quiet moments when you show you are untouchable. When someone tests you through shade, delays, sarcasm, or sabotage, your response should be calm, precise, and cutting, not to punish, but to send a clear signal to everyone. What happens when someone forgets who they're dealing with? Most people think reclaiming authority means confrontation, drama, or shutting people down loudly. Machiavelli knew better. He believed in precision and measured control. Every reaction should serve 2 purposes: set a clear consequence and maintain your emotional control. Imagine, someone constantly interrupts you in meetings, not outright aggressive, but just enough to steal your moment. Most people freeze, laugh it off, or try to speak louder, which hands control over to the interrupter. Machiavelli would shift the power by pausing, looking the interrupter calmly in the eye, and saying something like, "Interesting how you always jump in just as I'm about to make a point." Almost makes me wonder if you're afraid of what I have to say. No yelling, no accusations, just a calm, sharp mirror for everyone to see. Now the interrupter is on the spot, and you've reclaimed the space without raising your voice. That's tactical authority, psychological positioning. When people see you notice even subtle disrespect, and can expose it elegantly in public, they start recalibrating how they treat you. But what if the disrespect isn't action, but silence? Someone consistently withholds acknowledgement when you succeed, never commenting or supporting you. That silence sends a message: your success doesn't threaten me because I refuse to see it. This is one of the most manipulative moves, controlling your self-worth by starving you of recognition. Machiavelli would call this a morale war. What do? You don't chase validation, you amplify visibility. Don't fixate on their silence. Instead, make sure others see your value. Use subtle self-promotion not by bragging, but by naturally including your wins into conversations. Say something like, "That project I wrapped up last week, the one that hit those targets, taught me a lot about pressure management." You're not fishing for applause. You're setting facts. More importantly, you're reclaiming your narrative before their silence reshapes it. Then there's the most threatening form of subtle disrespect: collective undermining. This happens when multiple people, maybe unintentionally, echo the same dismissive behaviors. They laugh too hard when you slip up, exchange knowing looks, and share private jokes you're excluded from. At first it feels like you're losing your mind, but you aren't. This orchestrated disregard is designed to make you question your reality. Most react by breaking down or lashing out emotionally. Machiavelli held frame because emotion is their win. He'd create power. Instead, don't imagine co-workers mocking an idea you pitched. Instead of reacting, you arrive at the next meeting with undeniable proof. You say, "Since my last idea didn't resonate here, I ran some variations by people outside this circle. Turns out 2 are already being used by competitors." That's dominance, not a comeback, but quiet authority. You prove your original idea had merit, call out groupthink, and shift the power back to you. That's Machiavelli's strategy. Don't punish disrespect openly. Make people wish they'd respected you from the start. Everything you do is positioning. People are always watching, testing boundaries. How far can I push before this person pushes back? Your job isn't to be feared or adored. It's to be untouchable without raising your voice. Let jokes at your expense die in silence. Hold their gaze without blinking. Remove access when someone wastes your time. Don't nag. When others try to undermine quietly, speak louder in your presence through results and clarity. When disrespect becomes routine, know Machiavelli's ultimate truth: better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. But the highest power is to be respected without needing to explain why. When people realize you won't accept small disrespect, they won't risk testing you on bigger things. Subtle disrespect doesn't announce itself. It seeps through cracks and accumulates, like dust dulling a window, blurring others and your own view of you. That's why Machiavelli studied small, repeated breaches, because what you allow sets tomorrow's limits. From now on, enforce this law. No more laughing off insults, accepting silence where support belongs, tolerating tone shifts, public digs, or fake compliments that chip away at your stature. You don't correct for validation or to look strong. You do it because power demands it. The smallest insult you allow invites the largest betrayal. So when tested with shade, delay, sarcasm, or sabotage, respond quietly, exactly, devastatingly, not for revenge, but to show everyone what happens when someone forgets who they're messing with. That's how you become untouchable.